we're going to go ahead and get into this town hall with Vivek Ramaswamy. Now, this is really interesting because I told you guys, I give credit to News Nation for being open to bringing on different people. And they seem to be middle of the road kind of thing. So I give credit for them doing that. Like, they're bringing on people from both sides. They're having town halls for people, you know, regardless if they're running as a Democrat or if they're running as a Republican. I think that's pretty straight, you know. This is actually a really good town hall. And I told you guys before that Vivek is climbing in the polls. I showed you a poll last night where he's actually ahead of Ron DeSantis in one of those polls. There's so many different ones. But in all the polls that I saw, he's still in the top 3, regardless if he's second place or third place. But there were some things mentioned in this town hall last night that I really want to point out. Who is Vivek Ramaswamy? Where did he come from? A couple of you sent me emails asking, how is it that this guy kind of came out of nowhere, yet he became so popular and he's already in the top 3 of the GOP primary? These are all good questions to ask. But when we go into this town hall, we're going to start off with foreign policy. And I'm glad they started off this way. I was like, I didn't have to dig for the foreign policy questions, because there's something that he says here in reference to war in the military that I'm a little bit confused about, according to what's on his website. Listen to this. This woman here standing up in the audience, her son actually was in Afghanistan. So if you can imagine, she has strong, views about like the military, what happened to her son. So let's get started here. If you haven't had a chance to do so, go ahead and smash that like button. That helps me with the algo. Thank you very much.
And thank you for your kind words. So, Mr. Ramaswamy, given your lack of national security experience, how would you address the increasing aggressive actions towards our naval ships and pilots in the Pacific by the Chinese and the Russians?
Well, thank you for that question, Denise. And the first thing I also want to say is I thank your son for his service, and I'm sorry for your loss. My hallmark as U.S. president is to make sure, I'm saying this as the parent of 2 sons myself, that we will not send our sons and daughters to die in wars that do not advance American interests.
All right, let's pause right here. So he's not anti-war, but he is against having U.S. soldiers participate in wars that actually have nothing to do with American interests, as he put it. So I just want to clarify there, because I want people to hear that, oh, he's anti-war. No, not necessarily. So let him finish. Listen to what he says, and then I'm going to show you something.
That is going to be a solid principle for me in leading this country. If we're going to use our military, it is going to be to defend the interests of Americans here on American soil.
Okay, so that's important for people to hear. So he basically feels like the military should be used to defend this country here on American soil, not to send these soldiers to all these different wars and all that kind of thing. So he doesn't seem to approve of Russia, the conflict with Russia and Ukraine. I know there's another interview that he did recently about that particular issue. But I got some questions, because if that's the case, and if he feels that he would not have our military support those types of conflicts that are not in American interests, and he only wants the military to defend America here on American soil, then that would mean that you could actually free up the defense budget, some of that money in the defense budget, because the military will be scaled back, right? You can use that money towards other things. But I'm a little bit confused. And the reason why I say that, I'm going to come back to the town hall, because if that's the case, that the military will be scaled back, then why is Vivek trying to encourage military recruitment? On his website, under civic duty voting, He says the United States faces a 25% recruitment deficit in the military, and just 16% of Gen Z say they're proud to be American. The absence of national pride is a serious threat to our republic's survival at a time when young Americans are taught to celebrate differences. Civic duty voting, and in particular the service path, creates a sense of shared purpose and experience. This piece right here. In substance, this amendment will increase the standard voting age to 25 while still allowing all Americans to vote at age 18 if they meet a national service requirement, at least 6 months in the military or first responder role, or else pass the same civics tests required of nationalized citizens. Voting will remain open to citizens starting from the age of 18 who are U.S. and have demonstrated civic information in at least one of several ways: direct service to the country in the military or first response service. This is a way to increase the military recruitment, to solve that recruitment issue, right? But again, if I'm thinking about what he said in the town hall, if he only wants to utilize the military to defend the country and on our own soil, and he's not going to have the military participate in these proxy wars, then in that sense, the military would be scaled back. And if you're scaling the military back, why do you need to increase recruitment? I don't know. You guys tell me. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but that just seems to be a little bit weird. Something to think about. Let's go back into the town hall.
As it relates to the South Pacific, the question you asked about, we do have a vital interest at stake in making sure that China does not control the global semiconductor supply chain in Taiwan. We depend on that supply chain for our entire modern way of life, from those shoes in our feet to even the phones in our pockets, to these lights in this room being powered by leading edge advanced semiconductors. So one of the things that I have said is that until we have achieved semiconductor independence, we will ensure that Taiwan is not invaded by China. We will do whatever is necessary to deter China from invading Taiwan. I will end the Ukraine war on terms that pull Russia out of its alliance with China. We will upgrade our alliance with India to make sure they're on side as well.
Pause. So there was another interview that he had recently in reference to Russia and Ukraine, and it was with Simone Sanders. And he said that he would basically tell Vladimir Putin, you have to end your military relationship your relationship that you have with China. I'm sorry, but I don't think that Vladimir Putin's just gonna be like, okay. Like, I don't know about that. I don't think that would work. And who are we to tell another country who they can be in business with? I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm just laughing because I could see the expression on Vladimir Putin's face, kind of just like, the fuck is wrong with you? Like, I don't see that happening at all.
Turn Taiwan into a porcupine, and yes, move more of our naval assets, run a destroyer through the Taiwan Strait every month if that's what's necessary. But after that, our commitments will change. And if we move from strategic ambiguity to strategic clarity, then China knows it will not be in their self-interest to aggress on Taiwan until we have achieved true independence. And after that, I'm not going to send our sons and daughters to die to fight somebody else's civil war. But until then, that is a vital national security interest. And I do think it takes an outsider to be able to see it that way.
I'm just so confused. Michael said that won't happen either. I just don't understand this.
All right, a couple of quick things. You said to fight someone else's civil war. That would be a major change in American policy to declare that a civil war would be the way to figure out the Taiwan issue, number one. Number two, you said to deter Chinese aggression. Does that mean that you would categorically say American forces would defend Taiwan?
My message to Xi Jinping is you do not mess with the United States of America and you do not mess with our interests. And our interests include Taiwan until we have achieved semiconductor independence.
But Taiwan is a part of China. It's like, I don't understand. I'm so confused. That's the part a lot of people don't want to bring up. It's like Taiwan is a part of China. And it's just, again, like, who are we to tell China that they can't even, how do you invade something that's already a part of you? Let's continue.
So yes, I will be very clear that we are fully prepared to actually see that through, that we will move for 2 Ohio-class SSGNs to the South China Sea, as well as to the Pacific. We will move destroyers through the Taiwan Strait. We will enter our alliance with India. We will pull Russia out of its military alliance with China by ending the Ukraine war. This is how we deter them. But after 2028, after the end of my first term, we will be in a position to say our commitments will be different. Xi Jinping will not go for Taiwan until the end of my first term. I'm confident of that. And that is how we secure American interests while avoiding nuclear war. I do think that this will be the most important element of our foreign policy for whoever's the next president. And I think the strategic clarity that I'm offering is actually more likely to secure peace than the position of strategic ambiguity that the U.S. has so far adopted.
All right, we'll move on to Victor Rottinghouse in Iowa. He's a truck driver and a veteran of the U.S. military, joining us from Des Moines. Go ahead.
Hey, Mr. Ramaswamy. With all the division, we would like to know who are your top cabinet picks that you would choose to seek advice and counsel from?
All right, I think I'll clarify just a little bit in that it's early, right?
Yes.
In this process. So it may not be early yet and fair yet to make you pick an actual cabinet as of now with names. But if we zoom out a little bit, give us some names of either Donald Trump's cabinet, Joe Biden's cabinet, Barack Obama's cabinet, even George W. Bush's cabinet, that are of the type of people you would look for.
So look, when it comes to foreign policy, I believe in Cold War realists as the kind of school of thought that I want to see. Not people who favor the moderate liberal hegemony, not neoconservatives, but the likes of George Kennan, who, of course, has long passed, or James Baker. That gives you the sense of the kind of foreign policy vision that I want to bring to the table. Realism, nations advancing their own self-interest. I think that's what we're missing in our foreign policy establishment today. When it comes to somebody who wants to lead the U.S. Federal Reserve, for example, a really important pick that the next president will have to make in January of 2026, I like the likes of Rand Paul or Ron Paul, who have a vision that I share for radical reform of the U.S. Federal Reserve, restoring dollar stability as a single mandate. But in any case, whoever it is in a cabinet position, it is going to have to be somebody who shares my commitment to an originalist understanding of the Constitution. And Leland, one of the things we've already done that no other campaign has done is we've released our list of federal judges and Supreme Court picks. That's something that's actually provided greater transparency for how I see the Constitution. And I think it's also going to have to be cabinet members and other federal employees who are committed to my vision to reduce the federal employee headcount by 75% by the end of my first term, 50% by the end of the first year. So these are going to have to be agency heads who are, yes, willing, ready, able, and even have the energy to actually fire potentially a majority of the people reporting into them.
So that piece right there, this is one of the pieces of his platform where it raised a lot of red flags with people when he said he wanted to cut 75% of the federal workforce. And one of the things that I pointed out is that, but again, if you're looking at where most of the federal workforce is in this country, we're talking about Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. Those are areas that he wouldn't win as a Republican anyway. So that actually does not hurt him. And he actually went up in the polls after he made that statement. I don't know.
That is how we restore integrity in our constitutional republic.
All right, so I got James Baker and I got
Yes.
Ronna Rand Paul. Any other former cabinet members, any other current cabinet members that you'd be willing to say this is the kind of person I'm looking for?
Well, look, we're sitting here in August before the first debate, still 5 months in advance of the first primary. Many of them could even be other people who are running in this race for U.S. president. I'm looking forward to that debate stage. I'll be keeping an eye and remembering who's actually doing next best to see if actually they might actually occupy a pretty good cabinet role. I think there are good governors in this, a lot of good Republican governors, from Brian Kemp to Kim Reynolds to Kevin Stitt to Kristi Noem. I mean, the list goes on. So I think we have a deep bench to choose from. But that bench of red state governors will be one of the places that I look for my cabinet as well.
All right, so that's where the team of rivals comes from.
Yes.
If it would be. Anybody who's on the debate stage that you're going to be with that you think could make up part of that team of rivals?
Look, I actually think pretty highly of most of my, I don't want to call them competitors. I'll call them colleagues who are on that debate stage. You don't hear me bashing other candidates because I'm going to need each of them to play their role when it comes to reviving this nation. And so, yes, I do think that this presidential campaign will put some of them to the test. I think a certain number of them will be eligible for cabinet positions in my administration. I also want to say a word about Trump. I think Trump was an excellent president. I think his defeat of Hillary Clinton in 2016 was an important political event that stopped the leftward march through our government and our institutions. And so I expect to take him as an advisor as well.
So this is, hold on. I got to show you guys something because one of you sent this to me. And I think it's only fair that I show this because we need to figure out who Vivek is. And I say this because notice that he said that he thought that Trump was an excellent president. Well, my thing is, if you think that Trump was an excellent president, then why are you running for president? Especially since Trump is in the lead in the GOP primary, right? Who is Vivek? And we'll go back to the town hall in just a second. You guys sent me this. I did not know about this. I told you Vivek reminds me a lot of Barack Obama. His mannerisms, the Harvard connection, right? And I often wondered, was Vivek selected? Look at this. GOP candidate Vivek Ramaswamy sues World Economic Forum in landmark case. Did you know about this? There's just one thing I want to show you from this article. This is important. Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy is suing the WEF, claiming the Swiss-based organization falsely portrayed him as one of its young global leaders and refused to take his name off its website for 2 years. So apparently he didn't approve this or didn't approve of this. But if the WEF has its eyes on Vivek, what does that say about Vivek? How do I know Vivek was not selected just like Obama? I mean, you don't see them picking out just anybody, right? They chose him. Ramaswamy, 37, the son of immigrants from India who says he is worth $500 million, does not want to be associated with the WEF's progressive and radical policies and positions, according to the lawsuit, which was filed Wednesday in Cincinnati, Ohio. This article was released April 19th, 2023. So he filed the lawsuit. From what I understand, I think he won this lawsuit. So he was against it. He was not in favor of the WEF. But my concern is the fact that they chose him. You see that? They chose him. So they're looking at him. There's something else I want to show you too. Someone else sent me this. Hold on. I didn't know about this either. So I'm learning tonight. I've been learning today. I'm like, what? So let me cough really quick. Sorry. I don't want to sign in, man. I'm sorry, you guys. They make me sign into these things sometimes, and sometimes I don't have to. And I'm like, I don't know why I need to sign in again. Like, what? Okay. Just send me back to the article. Okay, here we go. All right, here we go. Let me make this bigger. Look at this. Let me put this up here. Now, this was written February 22nd this year, right? I think this is the one with the, yeah, Vivek came out of nowhere and now he's running for president. It's the piece here. Not that one. Hold on. This part right here. I told you about the WEF. Did you know about Soros? So this part was kind of weird. GOP presidential candidate is a literal check notes Soros fellow. George Soros. Here it is here. Look, Paul and Daisy Soros Fellowship for New Americans. He's a Soros. You see this? Meet the fellows. How do you feel about that? I don't know, man. I don't know, but we need to start asking this question. Who is he? Who is he? All right, let's go back to the town hall.
I'm actually taken to the next level, our America First agenda, shutting down that administrative state. There were some forces that stopped him that I expect will not stop me, but I will be proud to still learn from the foundation that he laid and even understand what he would have done differently. So that's the way I think about my fellow competitors in this race. They're people who I will rely on in different ways from the White House as I lead this nation forward. This is not a one-man job. This is a team sport. That's the way I see it.
All right, we'll get back a little later to how you'd shut down the administrative state. Meantime, Deval Patel, who's a financial consultant here in
1 second. Yeah, Blunts and Otters, Sabby got the receipts. It came from you guys, though. Like, you guys, ever since I did that one segment about Vivek when he was interviewed by Russell Brand, I got a number of emails, like, from you guys about this guy. And I was just like, no, I did not know all these things. So shout out to you guys.
Chicago with us now.
Great. Thank you for being here. Welcome back to Chicago. So regardless of who you voted for, it's not a secret that 2016, 2020, highly divisive for the country. Behind closed doors, when I speak to my more left-leaning friends, it's clear that we all want the same things. We might disagree on policy of how to get to the outcome, but it's very clear that everyone's pretty much on the same page. So what is your value proposition, regardless of party standing, on how you're going to unite the country and especially convince, let's say, folks in Chicago who have largely voted a certain way for most of their lives on why you are the right candidate to unite the country regardless of policy?
Deval, thank you. That's such an important question. We're skating on thin ice as a country now. I do not want to see us march to some national divorce. I want to lead us to a national revival. The first and most important catalyst to do that is a landslide election in 2024. This cannot be another 50.1 election. It just can't. I think that is risky for the country. It may take some of that ice and actually run some cracks through it that I do not want to see happen. I think I am the only candidate in the Republican field who can actually deliver that landslide because we are bringing young people with us in droves.
Guys, anybody that's listening, if you are independent or you're conservative, you're listening, do you think that Trump supporters would vote for Vivek? Realistically, do you guys think that they would vote for him? Because the thing is like, I think that they would. Just curious.
I'm the youngest person ever to run for U.S. president in the Republican Party. I have lived the American dream. This country has given me much. Son of immigrants who came to this country with no money. I've gone on to found multi-billion-dollar companies. Did it while marrying my wife, raising our 2 sons. That's the example we want to set for this country of what is possible, regardless of whether you're black or white, regardless of whether you are Democrat or Republican. That's the way it's done in the United States of America. That is what unites us. And I think the way we get to national unity, actually, from the White House isn't just through policy, because we're going to disagree on a wide range of contentious policies. But I think half the role of U.S. president is setting a tone of national character, of being a president in the White House. And I think it's been a long time since we've had one who meets this high standard, where I can look my 2 sons in the eye and tell them in good conscience that whether or not I agree with his policies, at least I want you to grow up and be like him. I think that's an important part of how the next president can actually reunite this country. That's the standard I want you to hold me to when I'm in that position, if you all put me there.
So I just want to tell you guys, when you watch these town halls, just, be advised that the people who stand up in the audience and ask these questions, those people have already been pre-selected. I know I've been in these town halls before personally. So the questions have already been chosen. So they make it seem like it's just, they're randomly just calling on that person. The questions have already been selected prior to the town hall. So just FYI, they pick certain people for a reason. One of you just told me that he can't run. He can't be president. I was trying to find that comment. If you find that comment, Eric, can you? Oh, here it is. Gar says he's not born here. From what I read, it said his parents were born in India and that he was born here. No, that's what I read. All right, a little bit more here. Here we go.
Thank you.
Is that going to work for your friends, you think?
We're still a year away, but I think we're on our way there.
One more thing I want to add, and we could share this with your friends too, for what it's worth, is some people think, good people, even in the Republican Party, believe the way we get to national unity is through compromise. I actually see it differently. I think the way we get to national unity is by being uncompromising about the principles that actually make us American. The pursuit of excellence, meritocracy, free speech, the rule of law, self-governance over aristocracy. If we're being honest, those are extreme ideals. Those are radical ideals. But that's what makes America itself. And our strength in our country is not our diversity. In some ways, we have gotten so obsessed with celebrating our diversity and our differences so much that we forgot all of the ways we are really just the same as Americans, bound by a common creed. E pluribus unum means from many one. That's actually what we're going to have to revive. That which unites us across our diversity, that's our true strength.
It's just like Obama-esque. Like, you came from Harvard, we can tell, and you worth $500 million. You have successful businesses, and that's great that you did well. You did well in business and all that jazz. But I mean, it's like, I told you I've seen this before. I saw it with Barack Obama. You can watch the rest of that town hall. It's long. You can watch the rest of it on News Nation if you want to see the full thing. But very interesting. Thank you so much for that, Eric. Thanks so much for that. I'm going to go to some of these comments. Thank you for the super chat, a kid. Sabby, congratulations on the 50K subs. Much love and respect for all you do, 100%. Thank you, a kid. Equinos says, this guy owns a company that competes with BlackRock and Vanguard. It's like, thank you, none of your business. War is what he said about China and Taiwan. Thank you for that. And thank you, Carlos. The citizens of the Republic of Taiwan would disagree. Taiwan is part of China. It's just, we've had this conversation on the show multiple times. Danny Haifong came on the show and explained the entire thing. Like, thank you for the super chat. Again, none of your business. He is the same old war hawk. Thank you, Frank. He's not a good Obama clone. Miss Sabs, he wrote a book called Woke Inc. He is anti-WEF. They're trying to smear him. Thank you for that, Miss. Yeah, that was the impression that I got, that like he really did not want that. But they put his name up there. I don't know what's going on. Thank you, Frank. He's Pete 2.0. No, another Pete. Okay. Let me take that comment on Rockfin and then we'll get to the Jink and Bernie story. Thank you so much for the tip on Rockfin, Dave. Thank you to Sabrina and Eric for keeping it live. People should get ready for new forms and self-sufficiency and discipline to try new things and take risk in some ways. Thank you, Roger. Sab Pacman saw them Boston housing prices increases and said, oop, time for a shift. Follow-up question to Vivek should have been, which American interests, American big business interests, close down the military bases? Always remember, people, never approach politicians asking their solutions. No, you approach with your solutions and demand they get down with your solutions. Post office are federal workers too. Oh, that's a good point. I forgot about the Postal Service. That's a good point, Roger. Maybe he's not referring to them. The mail's got to run.